What is up, Finesse family? Hopefully, everybody is having a great day today, guys. Today, we're going to have a conversation. We're going to talk about, are you going to have your loved ones at home or in an old folks' home? So, this is a very, very interesting and intriguing conversation that was a suggestion to do. And it was an interesting topic. Shout out to hubby beefiness. We were talking about this, and I felt like this was something to bring to the Finesse family and talk about it to really hear where society's heads at, how actually people feel about taking care of their loved ones, if it's a priority, or is it the responsibility of maybe the nursing home or a place of that such to take care of a loved one? Is it your responsibility, your obligation as having a family member for you to do it? Or do you think a home should do it, or aftercare facility, or a place to take care of them? We're going to have this intriguing conversation today, guys. We're going to go off of a New York Times article where it is talking about, I put my own life on hold. Then it talks about the pain and joy of caring for parents. And we're just going to have a discussion about that to see where everybody's ideals and feelings are about this, because as people are getting older, there's a bigger gap of the generation that is getting older, that cannot take care of themselves nowadays. And we're wondering, whose plight is this? Who's responsible for this generation of older people that sooner or later will not be able to take care of themselves? Is it their relatives' responsibility, or is it the responsibility of aftercare place or an elderly home, nursing home, things of that nature? So once again, if you're new to the channel, thank you for being here. My name is Mrs. B Finesse of millennialfinessemindset.com, guys. And here we are, Finesse. Well, we are the Finesse family, and what we're doing is, Finesse is an acronym, and it stands for faithfully innovating, inspiring, naturally effective, and seeking success every day. That is my goal every day, and my goal for the Finesse family every day. That is what we go by here. That is the purpose and the principle of this channel. Here on this channel, we talk about many things, dealing with the ideals of relationship and how communication can be better in all facets of relationships, dealing with relationships with money, relationships with health, business, relationships with your family, your co-workers, how we have these discussions and conversations, and how we can figure out how to get understanding in these conversations. So let's actually get started, guys. Once again, if you guys have not checked out the videos that we've had this week, we had Would You Rather, AI or Alive? Yesterday, that was a good hashtag replay. Make sure you guys watch that. We talked about a chat bot called Replica, and how people were misusing it in a sorts, and what the ideals of this are as far as being misusing something that acts and functions as a human but is not. Also, guys, make sure you guys checked out the videos that we've done in the past few weeks. We've done videos talking about, is thank you enough? How much are you worth? We did a good video, guys. Excellent video on hopelessness. Are people hopeless in relationships and in life? And we also talked about things coming into the new year, how you can prepare yourself. So if you guys have not checked out those videos, make sure you check them out. And we're going to get started now, guys. All right, guys. So once again, guys, we are back to this subject topic. It's titled Old Folks Home or At Home. Where should aging parents go? And not just parents, guys. This is family members. This is loved ones. This topic is really interesting. The more that I think about it, and the more that I know that these are different conversations that a lot of people do not like having. I know for the most part and in general, many people will say, yes, as my family members get older, I don't want them to go to a nursing home, or I don't want them to go to any type of facility. They brought me up and raised me, so I'm going to take care of them. That's what many people say. But I'm just wondering the ideal of what people really think as far as putting a family member in one of these facilities, or postponing your life. This article is really interesting that I found, guys, and I definitely wanted to bring it to the Finesse family for pondering to see exactly what you guys think about this whole topic. And would you put your life on hold for your family member to take care of them, especially in their last ailing years, or would it just make more sense to put them in a facility because they have the means there and they can take care of them better, and it's something that you wouldn't have to stress or worry about, right? So let me bring up this article, which I thought was super interesting. Like I said, guys, and I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say once I kind of get into it. I know just in general, talking to people about this, especially those that I've talked to in family and friends, a lot of people just in general, guys, they say that they're going to take care of their family members. They don't want to put them in a home or anything like that. They think about how they were brought up and that family member raised them from a baby up to now. And so it is your responsibility as your family members get older, especially your parents, to take care of them. So in this conversation, we're going to talk about the sacrifice and the ideal of the prosperity of sacrifice, how you miss out on being prosperous because you're sacrificing. We'll talk about the different moments when you are taking care of that loved one, that joy you can feel, or if it's like their last days, or if they're about to pass anyways, you can spend that time and love and joy with them. We're going to talk about the cost. Does it make more sense to take on your parent, yourself, or your loved one because of the cost for them to be in the facility? Many people cannot afford that, hence why a lot of them just take care of their family member because of the cost of a facility and yearly to pay for this and what goes with the facility. Many just can't afford that. Also, the anxiety dealing with what happens when the parent or loved one passes away. How if you're there, you don't have that anxiety of thinking, man, I wish I was with them in their last moments. I wish, they didn't go through, distraughtness and hurtness for maybe a caregiver taking care of them. And we're going to have a lot of different stories so you guys can hear both sides, because in this article, there's different perspectives of people that put their parents in home care and that took care of them. And they talk about like the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. So we can talk in perspective. Also, how to use the facilities when you are taking care of them at home, but you feel overwhelmed. So how to even flip back in the mode of if you are taking care of them, how to get them or move them in the facility, and mentally how to deal with that. So once again, guys, let me get into this article. If you're new or you're just getting in here, make sure you guys hit that like button on the way in. And we're talking about this. Old folks home or stay at home. How are you going to facilitate a loved one or an elderly parent when it comes down to that time as they're getting older and they need that help? And we're going to have a real discussion about this. I want to see what you guys feel about this, your perspective, and then I want to give a little also a little perspective from people that actually have been doing this, and how they dealt with that time with that parent or loved one, and even that passing mentally, how they felt, even them being in a nursing home or being at home. All right. So here's an article, guys, from the New York Times, and it's, I put my own life on hold, the pain and joy of caring for parents. All right. So, in this picture, this is, Heather, and she was featured in the Times article, and she tends to her mother, Patricia. And I know a lot of people that do this, guys, especially, at different jobs, especially even in education. I know a lot of coworkers that actually are taking care of parents. So they have to do even second jobs, third jobs, just, to make sure they have enough to cover parents that are in elderly homes or parents that are actually at home with them. All right. So in the article it says these many daughters say that they sacrifice careers when their relatives wouldn't. All right. So in this article, I guess when they did the poll, it was more women that were sacrificing than men. We do know a lot of men do that, so it's that we're not forsaking the men and saying they don't. But with this New York Times article, the study that they did, it was more so women that stayed home with their parents. All right. So let's keep going. All right, it says others said hiring help sapped finances. And remember, guys, I talked about that earlier. A lot of times hiring somebody to come in or putting them in the facilities costs a boatload more money than just taking care of them. So you can see all ends of this, and I'm just going to kind of speak all those parabolas before we get into it. Let's say people that are taking care of the loved one at home. It could be a family member or it could be a parent. It is easier for some to be at home because they're using their own facilities. Being at home is better because they're not paying for a home care provider. Being at home is better for them because it's not sapping up the finances as far as putting them in a nursing home. But if we look at the other side, them being in a care facility or nursing home, somebody is there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They have the care that they need as far as even the having the devices and equipment that's needed for them. Some bad sides to that, having them at the home care, which we're going to talk about in this article, people will discuss, is that the home care providers and or the people working in facilities could be cuckoo birds, cracked out, angry people. You know, they could be not loved on your family member or parent like you would. They can mistreat them, and we know that happens a lot in nursing care facilities and nursing homes. They can get mistreated if they're at these places. So there's a whole gamut of different ways and means you can look at this. It says after the Times published a pair of articles on elder care, one about a Connecticut home health aide and another about a woman ongoing career to care for older relatives, hundreds of people start giving their experiences. So this is where I thought was really intricately interesting, because these are people that willingly gave their experience in the circumstances they went through dealing with their elderly parent and how they chose home care, a nursing facility, or just taking care of their parent themselves. And when I say home care, I mean somebody comes into your home instead of you doing it yourself. All right. So the first thing we'll talk about, it says sacrificing the prosperity for aging parents. So this part is basically saying how a lot of people, and you're going to hear from people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, sacrifice like the years where they could be building their nest egg and making money for even their families, because they wanted to take care of that parent or give that parent that love that they needed. In this part, it talks about, this is what somebody said. Her name is Linda Marshall. She's out of Oklahoma. She says, what I thought might be a few weeks of caring for my mother turned into 4 years. A few months after she died, my father deteriorated rapidly. And I noticed that happens a lot too. When one of the spouses die, usually less than 4 months to a year, the other spouse dies because of loneliness. She says, when I was finally able to look for a job, nobody wanted me. I got a lot of nice words from potential employers that told me I was a hero and told me that my reward would be in heaven. But nobody hires heroes, and heaven doesn't pay my bills on earth. All right. So this is one of the people saying that, and I could see that, guys. People saying, what you're doing is so honorable, and it's so great that you're taking care of the parent, but you don't see the back end of what there's still bills to be paid, and they still have to take care of now an extra person, which is the parent, and you still have to take care of whatever bills and things you have at your own house. So I could see the burden that weighed on this lady. Her name's Linda. She's out of Oklahoma. So that's an interesting perspective. Let's see what you guys are saying here. We have Cars. He says, good morning, Mrs. B and lurkers. Cars, you're hilarious. He says, methinks my family put you up to this conspiracy, Mrs. B, to get old Car out of here, out of the community. Well, I say nay. But you know what? This is the thing we don't like to talk about, Cars. And I even know myself personally when I was like younger. before I had kids, I was like, I don't want to talk about this with my mom and dad. They would talk about, where things were and, how they had things set up, if they passed and all that type of stuff. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to hear it, So, it's a very cliche thing, but I think it's super important for us to talk about these things, guys, because a lot of times, something could happen to your parent and they could be younger, just so you guys know, like in my family, I have aunts and uncles that are in like their 70s and 80s, and they're whippersnappers. Like I'm telling you, they probably could run around a track quicker than you could in like your 30s, 40s, and 50s. Even some of you guys in your 20s. So when I think of age, like when I think of somebody like in their 60s through 80s, they're young to me because like my granny's in her 90s and she's still living. So I don't look at people like from 60 to 80 and think, oh, they're old, elderly hags and haggots. Man, I don't know. I just made that up, guys. But I don't look at them as they're decrepit and they sit around, because my family members they're on the move. Like they're really healthy and, they're taking care of great grandkids and, driving and doing everything that most people would think somebody like in their 60s, 70s, or 80s is not doing, even 50s. So I don't look at people like that. I don't look at people like in their 60s plus that they're just sitting around staring into space. No, my family members are moving around, driving cars, traveling, going on cruises, doing all kind of stuff, exercising, all kind of stuff, guys. So I don't look at people that way. Let's see. We got talk with Tori. Hey, Tori. I hope you're doing well. He says, hello, Mrs. B and everybody. Hope you're doing well, Tori. We got OG Patrice in the building. Hey, OG. She says, greetings and salutations, Finesse family. Hope you're doing well, OG. And hopefully that new part you were talking about, that is working out well with you. I know you were saying there's a part you had got in Vegas. So hopefully that's working well with you. Let me know, OG. Email me and let me know how that's going too. Or contact me, one or two. Hey, Princessa. Hopefully you're doing really, really well. We got Aisha in the building. Hey, Aisha. Hope you and the twins are doing well. And your family. Hopefully you guys are all well. Oh, Danny. Hey, Danny. Hope you and your daughter are doing well. Danny was on the show a while back, a couple months ago with doggone it. Dang it. But he was on the show, guys, talking about losing weight. I think he lost over 200 pounds. And getting healthy. We'll talk about getting healthy mentally and physically. Awesome show. He was on here with Candid Ann. That's right. Candid Ann, the RN. So if you guys missed that show, check it out. It's called Wellness Talks on How to Live Healthy. And Danny was one of the special guests on there. Candid Ann brought. I didn't even know that he was coming. So shout out to you, Danny. Hopefully you're doing well. He says, good morning. Great topic. I'm trying to just set my kid up so if she needs to take care of me, she can. If not, I'm trying to stay fit. That is great. Great, Danny. That is so great, because a lot of times, and like I was telling you guys about my family members, guys, my grandmother is still living and she's in her 90s. And I have aunts and uncles that are in their 70s. And I think some of them just peaked on 80. And they're doing everything. They travel, they exercise, they do everything. So like I told you, I don't really look at age as a number, as a static thing that where you can't do anything. And I hope you guys are not doing that too. I don't care what your body physically age is looking like. You want to emotionally and mentally and then lead into physically keeping your body as strong and healthy as you can. And when I say strong, everybody's strength level is going to be different as they age. So, I mean, obviously don't push it, guys. Don't don't drag your body to extremes. But for the level that you're at, slowly work to grow endurance, because your body is a powerhouse. I don't think we realize that how powerhouse our bodies are. And it is such a intricate, awesome thing where it changes. I mean, guys, you can Google this. There was a lady who was so, bless her heart. I believe she was like 100 something, and she's like in the Guinness Book of World Records for being able to walk the fastest on the track at her age or something like that. So, you find that thing that you can do and you work that thing. But I think health is super, super, super important. It's super important. Yeah, shout out to you. Oh, I said shout out to Aisha. She says peace and blessings to you. Let's see. Hopefully your daughter's doing well, Danny. I know, guys, this cold season is going through and all these different things with C-19 and all that. Hopefully you guys are keeping your family safe and healthy. Make sure you just get the right things in your body and system to get this machine working well too, guys. Hey Deborah, she says hello, Mrs. B Finesse and chat. Hopefully you're doing well, Deborah. We have Saquana in the building. She says hello all. And Princessa was saying, woohoo, go Danny, because you lost all that weight. So shout out to you. And and Danny, I know he'll speak on this because he's been up on the platform too a couple times speaking about his daughter and his life and that whole journey of the mental aspect of your mindset. And it's really imperative, guys, no matter what you're going through, no matter if you're going through divorce, no matter if you're going through heartbreak in relationships, no matter if you're going through heartbreak in life with family members, friends, loved ones, people threw you to the left, to the right, mistreated you, took what you had and tried to profit off of what you had, or use your space and your ideas and your wherewithal, and even the light you have, the love that people have for you and that want to be around you. They might try to use that to come up. Don't worry about that, guys. You focus on your health and your mental state and your well-being. You focus on what's going to bring you joy. And sometimes you have to make that, even talking about this topic we're talking about, there might be family members that can take care of siblings or parents or loved ones, and some of you might not be able to because of the mental strain. And that's why I like this article. It's going to have all kind of aspects that many of you probably didn't even think of. Many of you might want to put your parent or loved one in a facility, and from this article you're going to find out, maybe I shouldn't. And many of you might want to take care of the parent, and you're going to find out, man, maybe they need to be in a facility. I mean, you're going to see all sides of it. So that's why I really thought this was an interesting article. And it's something, we need to kind of discuss and just have that understanding. Either way that, you handle this, it's really, really interesting. All right. Talk with Tori says, most definitely health is wealth. Yes. It's super, super important. And I think a lot of times we just make excuses. I mean, I know we do this. And if anybody, the word, it says, your body is a temple. And I think metaphorically and literally, guys, even if you're not a believer, your body is a temple because it's that whole life force that keeps you going. And the things that you're putting in it, and the things that, you're doing to it, all the years that you are living, when you do hit that peak year where your life starts to kind of change and things slow down. And this is what our bodies do as we age. Your body does that. So you've got to put more energy into eating right, exercising, mental, all those things you did in that first half of your life. If Lord willing, He lets you live that long, it's going to matriculate in how easy, I guess you could say, or how hard your life will be as you move on in your years. So it's really important that you think about it that way, not how hard it is to meal prep or eat right or count carbs, count calories, find the right diet for your body. Not diet, lifestyle. I don't really do diet. I do lifestyle because you can keep up a lifestyle. A diet is something I don't think many can keep up, right? So let's get back into the article, guys. If you're just coming in, make sure you hit that like button on the way in. If you have not subscribed to the channel and hit the notification, go ahead and do that. Turn that bell on so you guys can know when I go live. All right, guys. So let's see. Let's get into the next one. So the first woman, her name is Linda. She talked about how she sacrificed her livelihood and working years to take care of her elderly family members. And when they passed away, she tried to get a job. And she said she got a lot of nice words when she explained, because people want to know why you have a gap in your working history. So she said her potential employers were telling her, that's excellent that you took time to take care of your family members. But she was saying she could not get a job that time she took off taking care of her family members. All right. The next person, his name is Eric, and he's from Toledo, Ohio. He says, choosing to care for my mom for 25 years. Wow. This person cared for the parent for 25 years, guys. Who would do that? Who in the chat, put a one if you would take care of your parent more than 15 years? Who would actually do that? One in the chat if you would. So this person, his name's Eric, he said, choosing to care for my mom for 25 years influenced every job I took and had a negative effect on my career. Once again, another person saying how this affects their career. I spent very little on myself and all of my extra earnings went towards her living expenses and care. I handled and mishandled her mental illness and numerous physical injuries, which required long recovery times. I sacrificed my personal life and general happiness in order to do this. I would do it again too. It was the right thing, okay? So now let's look at this from a psychological aspect. In my mind, I'm wondering if Eric subconsciously feels some type of way because of this. And the reason I say that, guys, is because when I'm looking over what he says, I handled and mishandled her mental illness numerous times. And he said there were numerous physical injuries. So I'm wondering, he's saying he mishandled it. And that's being honest. So I'm not knocking him for that, because guess what? That happens. Even if you have a baby and you raise a child, there's a lot of things you're going to do and mishandle. And that's just the growing pains of being a parent. You know, you live and you learn stuff. Hopefully you don't keep making the same mistakes over and over again. But, you know, it happens, you know. So he says right here, I sacrificed my personal life and general happiness. So to me right here, and I'm not sure how old Eric is, but I am assuming Eric is at least in his 50s. So I'm just gonna speculate he started taking care of his mom maybe in his 20s. We'll say 25. And then he said he took care of his mother for 25 years. So we'll say 25 to 50, right? He said, I sacrificed my personal life. So those are the years, if we're speculating, you know, where he could, you know, been grinding, setting up himself as far as his career, stacking his money, putting his investments together, raising a family into his 20s into 30s. He said, I sacrificed my personal life and general happiness, but he says it was the right thing. And he also said he'd do it again. So I only have one person in here that says that they would take care of their family member. Only one of you guys put one. That's interesting. Danny says, men, pay all your child support in full, because if you try to retire and you owe, they will take that money. It never goes away. I hope you guys do know that. Yeah, that's like that. That child support stays on like arrears, like a bankruptcy and all those type of things. Like it's just going to stay with you. Not bankruptcy, but I'm just saying it's one of those things that it stays with you even after the child is of age. All right. So, okay, thank you for that, Danny. Let's see what else you guys are saying. Danny also says, thank you so much. It still is a journey, and I love to eat. Yes. And I think that's why I said diets do not work. I think a lot of times if you can find a nutritionist or a trainer, or somebody that does dietitian work that can matriculate the things you actually like to eat into your healthy living lifestyle, it makes it better. Because if you just are, neglectful of certain foods, or it is something to where, you know, you're feeling there's certain things you just cannot eat and you cannot ever eat them, you're not going to stick with it, because your human nature is to want it and crave it, especially if you're not strong enough. But if you have a lifestyle, there is times in the week or during the daytime or night when you can have something. But it's balanced. It's all the food you're eating. It's not like I eat one bad food and it's going to cause me to gain a whole bunch of weight. It is the balance of the foods you eat. So there are certain foods you can eat with other foods and it'll balance it out. And I digress. That's a whole nother topic, guys. I know that up and down and backwards, that health and nutrition lifestyle. But it is important that you all know at some essence that, because you got to learn your body, and everybody cannot do the same type of plan. Let's see. Mickey Red, she says, Mickey, you changed your name again. Mickey Red Create, she says, one, doing it now. Okay, shout out to you, Mickey. This is what I'm talking about. And I love this, because a lot of people are in the shadows taking care of loved ones, parents, and I actually include taking care of a sick child. Even though you have to do that, yet and still you still should get the accolades and respect and understanding from other people that it is something that is tasking. You are sacrificing your personal life and I wouldn't say general happiness, but the peace. I would say peace, because you don't really get a peace when you're taking care of a sick child. You know, you have to give your time, unless you do have maybe a loved one, husband or wife, or even a child that's stepping up to give you a break. A lot of times these people do not have this. So shout out to you guys too. People taking care of their elderly family members and or loved ones and children. All right. So if you're just coming in the stream, make sure you guys hit that button on the way in. We are talking about elderly home or at home. This article in the New York Times talks about I put my own life on hold, the pain and the joy of caring for parents. And we're also adding into this, guys, caring for loved ones and or children that are sickly. All right. We got Mr. C. He said, yes, I would do this. He'll take care of his loved one. Mickey Red says being a caretaker is hard. And it is, Mickey. And this is why, like I said, I love that my husband brought me this topic. And he was like, babe, it's really important. You should talk about this. Because, you know, a lot of people would struggle with putting their parent in a care facility. Or they would struggle with even just bringing the parent into the house and taking care of them with no help. I know neighbors that are like that. And, you know, I've talked to them and they were saying the stress and strain of that they don't have a life. They cannot go anywhere. That their parent does not like to go outside the house. I believe they have dementia or something. And so even like hearing noises scares their parent, you know, so they don't even like to go out the house to go to doctor's appointments. She said, her parent used to love going to church and things of that nature before the dementia kind of really went bad. And now, you know, at least going out to church or going to a doctor's appointment is the caregiver getting some, you know, air, getting some, you know, solace of coming out the house and seeing things. But then when they get to the point where they don't even want to come out the house, let alone their room, you know, you have to think about the caregivers and the mental toll that takes, because you see you're losing that loved one before your eyes, and they're losing that whole solace of being the normalcy of being a human and going outside and enjoying fresh air. And yeah, so yeah, you know, shout out to you for that, Mickey Red, and everybody that's taking care of somebody. People don't understand the toll that it takes on you guys and your peace and your happiness, if you're honest, you know, and it's okay to be honest about that. I think, like I said, I feel like this conversation is going to open up a lot of eyes and give a lot of people room to breathe, because for so long they couldn't talk about honestly how they feel. And I'm so glad, Mickey, that you feel comfortable saying, you know, it is hard. And if you didn't know, Mickey said earlier that she is taking care of a loved one right now. So she understands what I'm talking about in this article. Adrian Nash. Hey, Adrian. She says, I've got words on this. Yeah, Adrian. I remember you talking about that before on the panel, Adrian. You taking care of loved ones, family members. Yeah, man. I mean, a lot of people do not get that recognition of what they're going through, and they don't get a space to talk about it, or, you know, get to hear other people like themselves talk about it, because a lot of people, it's kind of cliche. They don't really want to talk about what they're going through. Okay, good. Okay, cool. I got a lot of ones in here. A lot of you said that you'll take care of your family member. Yeah. Aisha says, I'm not putting my mom in a nursing home. Yeah. And I think many people, especially Black people, I think they feel that way. I think a lot of them are just like, we don't care. We're just going to deal with it. They took care of us, and it's just like a cultural thing. I know there are some Black people that will. I'm not saying that, guys. I'm just saying, just in general, as a culture, I think many of us want to take care of our loved one or parent. And I see it all the time. I literally see it all the time. Before the billion says, I had to take care of my grandma before she passed. She never went into a home. BTB, I remember you talking about that too, buddy. And I remember you, BTB, saying how, I remember BTB on the panel coming up on my show talking about how he had to take care of his mother when his mother had that operation and she was really sickly. So, you know, shout out to those of us that do that, because we don't get that recognition, and a lot of people just feel like you should do it anyways. You know, no, a lot of people do not believe that. They don't think you should do it anyway. So I definitely want to give you guys that shout out and honor and respect now, if nobody hasn't. All those of you that took care of your loved ones, your family members, parents, grandparents, children, you know, I'm definitely going to give you guys that respect, because people don't understand the toil that it is. It's a toil. So now, guys, we're talking about the sacrificing prosperity for aging parents. We had the lady Linda. She talked about how she took care of her parent, and after her parent died, she could not find a job. People were telling her, you're such an angel for taking care of your parents, but she could not get any potential work. And she says, listen, they told me I was a hero, but and that my reward would be in heaven, but nobody hires heroes and heaven doesn't pay my bills. Okay. We also had somebody named Eric. He said he took care of his people for 25 years of his life. He said he sacrificed his personal life and his general happiness. All right. The next story, this is from Gloria, and she's out of Colorado. And she says, I began caring for my mother full time just a few years after getting back into the workforce when my children were in elementary school. All right. So she had young children, and this lady had to take care of her mother full time. I have a law degree, and I used to work in a big firm in New York City. Although my salary was relatively large, as a young attorney, I couldn't afford both childcare and housing near enough to be home at the end of the day. All right. So I left New York City in my career, and I started a new career, which afforded me more flexibility as a parent. Just when I was hitting my stride, about 4 or 5 years in, my mother could no longer live alone and moved in with me. So she was basically, she was foreshadowing. She was saying before the mother came, she, started her career as a lawyer. She was making good money. And now that the parent came in, this is where the nail hit the road, because she was affording, the lifestyle with her family. But now that her family member had to live with her full time, she says neither nursing home nor assisted living were affordable. That's one of the things I talked about, guys. A lot of people just by default end up having to take care of that parent or loved one because they cannot afford the facilities. And these facilities are expensive. Unless they have what is it called? Medicare and Medicaid and all those different things. It's super expensive if you're paying out of pocket. It says, even if they were good options for her, which were not. She said, I went back to a part-time schedule. Listen to this, guys. At 62, I have not lived up to my earning potential, nor have I been able to save enough money for my own care when my time comes. So going back to what Danny said, Danny Rule said, listen, I got it set up so, my daughter, if she wants to take care of me, the money is there. But if she doesn't, we're good. I got it set up for her. Now, this whole thing foreshadowed, because it does not say how old they are when they actually got their mother. But I'm assuming, we'll just guesstimate they probably were in their 30s, right? Now they're saying they're 62. I want you guys to see the whole aspect and the dynamic of how people's lives are stagnated because of that sacrifice that they're giving to take care of a loved one. And it just goes unnoticed. It goes, like that other woman said, or you'll go to heaven, but in this moment, people still have to pay bills and have to have a lifestyle that they can facilitate to take care of themselves and their families. And it's so interesting to hear about this because, like I told you guys, I don't really hear people talking about this much. She says, I have daughters. Well, she's at 62 now, telling the story. I have daughters, so I suppose the cycle will continue as they sideline their own careers to care for their children. That's so interesting how this lady says she feels like, her name's Gloria, that this cycle is going to happen with her kids too. Because she's 62, she put her life and her whole ambitions of being a lawyer, working in a big city, New York City, having a good job, having great money to take care of her and her family. And then her mother got sick about 4 years into her starting her career. And from that time on, she's been taking care of her mother. Now she's to the point she has nothing to show for it. Right? This next lady, her name is Suzanne. She's out of Savannah, Georgia. She says, I moved back home and took care of my parents for 4 years until they died 4 months apart. They were wonderful people and I don't regret it. But I put my own life on hold, including professionally, and had to start over from nothing in my mid-30s. All right? She said she had to put her own life on hold, including professionally, and had to start over from nothing in her mid-30s. You guys know how detrimental that is in your 30s to start over from nothing? I'm not saying it can't be done, but I mean, especially when we're talking about in this era, post-pandemic era, post-C-19, and everything going on. And even think about that whole aspect, guys, trying to protect your parents. A lot of these people had to probably pull out of their job. And I know even in education, I had a lot of coworkers that had to just, at least for a year or so, they had to take a leave because they could not sacrifice coming, in an environment where they could get, C19 or something, and then go home and give it to a sickly parent or compromised parent or sibling or even child. So think about, that whole aspect of somebody having to deal with that now, man. Wow. Aisha says, comfort food makes me happy. I think I'm codependent on donuts. I see you always talking about donuts. I have two. Oh, okay, Mickey. Mickey says she has another account. Okay, cool. Car says, one up to the point of dementia for safety's sake. Interesting. Mickey says, having a hobby when you are a caretaker is imperative. Yeah. And like I was telling the neighbor, I said, it's times where you're going to have to just, leave and or have and see, the bad thing is they don't have any family members around. But even if you just walk around the block, go get one of those cameras, those baby monitor cameras, turn that thing on and go walk around the block and or leave. Some of those cameras are kind of Wi-Fi, whatever. So even if you're away from the house, you can still see what's going on. But you have to have your own peace in any aspect. Definitely when you're taking care of somebody. But even if, you facilitate anything, you work a regular job, you have a family, you're taking care of a family member, you have to do a grueling job or a very intricate job. You always have to find ways, guys, where you can leave whatever that reality is, and do something that gives you joy and peace. And I feel like a lot of times us as human beings, we don't even understand that aspect of that we need that as humans. We are so caught up in the rat race of doing, what we have to do, to work, to pay bills, to have things that we feel like we want and need. And then we don't have any peace because we don't get to enjoy those things. And that's one thing I've always made imperative in my life. I'm going to enjoy whatever it is. Even if I work and have a job, I am not going to sacrifice my happiness for the job. I'm going to travel. I'm going to go out of town with my friends and family. I'm going to take trips. I'm going to spend money, not at a default on ignorance. Like, we're not going to spend money to where we can't, take care of things we need to. But yet and still, I really think it's imperative that you enjoy your life. I think it's imperative that, when you're here in this life, you make it worth living. And sometimes it might take you doing something for yourself and maybe not paying something small because you got to enjoy yourself. Now, make sure you catch up on it the next time. But I think a lot of times that self-preservation, that I call it just mental stability and having sanity, I don't think we realize how important that is, guys. I think a lot of you sacrifice yourself for other people in a sense, and it's not a reciprocity. Now, when you're a caregiver, I feel like that's different. You're not going to get a reciprocity back for that. You just got to have a big heart and be a good person in a sense, because you're not going to get the accolades. You're not going to get the, you're awesome. You're not going to get the, I'm proud that you sacrifice yourself for your parent, your child, your loved one. You're not going to get that, period. And you know that, but you still keep pushing forward. But like I said, anytime I can give somebody their accolade, their shout out, when I know nobody else is paying attention, because it's the right thing to do too for a person that's giving their life for another person, I think it's important. I think it's important to tell people who they are and encourage them. Even if you're not that one taking care of a caregiver, like we've heard many people in the chat just say, I'm taking care of a caregiver. I've done it before. It's hard. It's heavy. A heavy burden. We need to raise them up and tell them how, awesome that they are, because nobody's probably told them that. And that it's an honor to know them, that they would sacrifice themselves to take care of that loved one. And I just think it's super, super important, guys. Let's see. Mickey says, okay, having a hobby, right. Aisha says, I watched my aunt take care of my late grandmother who has dementia, and it was super hard on her. But she had the patience and strength to do so. God bless my aunt. Seriously, yes. It takes a special person, because even when you're dealing with the dementia aspect of it, guys, that whole idea of looking at a person, not that but that person, you share memories with them. You share good times, and they don't even remember your name. They don't remember many of the things you shared together, the good times. That's got to break a person's heart, because you're taking care of them. They're calling you another name. They don't remember your name. They don't remember anything. And you know and remember everything you guys did and loved together. But they don't. That's got to be heart-wrenching. So I don't think a lot of times, a lot of us are walking in our life and enjoying it, or, we're going through different things, and we don't realize that other people are going through the fire. People are going through the fire just trying to do, quote unquote, the right thing. And like I said in this article, this is why I like this article, because at the very beginning, the lady was talking about how, the New York Times person that wrote it was saying how a lot of times they're noticing it's daughters or the women that are doing it. And to a detriment, because a lot of times it's the woman that can leave the job and not the husband. It's the woman that, needs to be the lover and the care provider and not the man. So, just by default, a lot of times it is a woman. Or even family members are like, oh, you're the responsible one. Even though they could probably take care of that parent or loved one too, they put that burden on the child that's responsible, or the child that always takes care of mom or daddy. And that's just wrong, because just like a parent or loved one help raise all the children, I think if there's a multiplicity of children, each one of those children should be putting in something to help out and not put that stress on one. But normally, just kind of like Aisha says, it's always maybe one sibling or one of the loved ones that has to carry that burden. And it's just rough, because it's so much to do, guys. It's so much, unless you work in home care and all that. And I know, because I've had a lot of family members work in home care, and a lot of family members that took care of sickly children and kids, parents, all that. The toll that it takes, even lifting somebody up, trying to clean them or put them in the tub, if they've lost their memory or lost mobility, all that goes into, that. They could be defensive, or they could be what's that called, where they kind of fight back and stuff, because mentally they're not there, and you have to deal with that bruising and scarring. I know a lot of Lord bless them, the people that work in the school system. I don't think a lot of you guys understand, especially if you have children that are mentally handicapped or something. Those teachers and those paraprofessionals that work in the school system, and they're called I think it's called like non-coherent, or the kids that like cannot be around other kids because they don't have the social skills. They have the the mindset and capacity of maybe a 5-year-old or younger. So they they hit and they spit and they do things that a young child would do, because mentally up here that's their age. And these people that they are not their parents or even related to these kids, they are taking care of these kids. They get scratched and kicked and have bruises. Yes, they have bruises. They've showed me them. In the school system, people that work in it's called ESC department, and those mentally handicapped kids, yes, those kids hurt those other adults, and they can't do anything back to them. So I don't think people even realize that that stigma of what people go through even in the school system. Those people that do that job every day, in the silence, nobody knows and sees them. Yeah. Deborah says, my mom moved her mom into our home. My mom moved her mom, so this was your grandmother, into our home when I was in high school. By the time I left home for college and joined the Air Force, right before my grandmother passed, it had been 8 years of taking care of her. Wow. But like I said, I believe that's super, super common. Like, we just take care of our family members. I think a lot of times nobody really kind of thinks about what people are going through when they do that. Car says, indeed, Mick, even journalizing the loved one's full history. Now that would be neat too, keeping up with that, keeping up with, what their memories. I know with my grandmother, we just went up there to visit her, and I could have did it over the phone, but I wanted to do it in person. And I recorded her, and I went all the way back and asked her, because my granny is a whippersnapper. She remembers everything, guys. I love talking to my granny. She's just like an old book because she remembers everything. She still got her memory, and I love it, in her 90s. And I wanted to hear her tell me, and I wanted to record it about her being on the sharecropping farm, and her marrying my mom's dad, and just her life, and her talking about what happened. And it was just so interesting and cute. Stories I never heard. No, it wasn't cute, her staying on the sharecropping farm, but thank God she didn't really go through a lot of bad things like I know many other people have stories, or even their parents were actual slaves and stuff, and grandparents. But it wasn't what it should have been, obviously, back then, how they were treated. But she talked about it, and she talked about how she left down there and came up north, and with her husband, and it's just the whole story, just listening to it, and it's just amazing. And I'm like, I'm going to record this. I was telling my husband, I talk to my granny all the time, but I'm going to record her actually talking, and just kind of break it up into segments, because it's just so awesome to hear older people talk, especially the ones that are they're with it. Like they remember everything. And I believe many old people that are still alive, and when I say old, I say 75 plus or 80 plus. They remember, because back in the day, there was not stuff in food. There was not chemicals and all these hormones and those type of things. So I bet you their brain is just in such a perfect condition, unless they have some type of mental illness or capacity. Their brain is in such a good condition to remember things. And it's just so awesome to listen to them. I love listening to old people talk. I love it. Because most of them are very with it, and they can tell you everything. Let's see. Mickey was telling Cars, journaling is a great stress relief. Adrian says, I would not do it again. I've sacrificed enough. There are professionals who can be compensated adequately for that. Oh, here, Adrian. Let's see. Let me put it in, Adrian. Here we go. Copy. There we go. All right. All right. Let's see. Aisha says, in some states, I think it's based on having Medicaid. People can get paid to stay home and watch their elderly family members they offer training to. Yes, Aisha, I seen that when I was researching this. They were saying that there's a way you can get paid for taking care of your parent. And also too, guys, you can use it as I think you can write it off on your taxes too, because you're using your money. That part of that money is not actually your income. So they were saying there's like write-offs you can do. Once again, this is not financial information, medical information, and or legal information, guys. This is just for informational purposes. So I heard about that, Aisha. In some places, you can watch a family member and get paid for it. Adrian saying long-term care insurance. Aisha says, but I understand depending on how serious their condition is, not everyone can mentally do it, and that's real. Yeah. And that's why at the very beginning, Aisha, when I was telling the stories, I wanted to give every facet of it. I did not want to just focus on, it's your responsibility, you should take care of your parent, because some people mentally could not, they would probably treat their parent worse than another caregiver because they don't know how to deal with stress themselves. So, I think it's imperative that you have to be careful and really know what you can and can't do. I think that's super, super important too. Let me go into what they were saying here. Let's see. All right. So that was Suzanne. Let's see. Joyous final moment. So here's some people that were saying they appreciated that they could be around that parent in the final moments. So we're going to break that down. Let's see. Joyous final moments. They said, for nearly 20 years now, I have been the sole caregiver for my wife, who is totally and permanently disabled from a stroke she suffered in 2000. I too am a virtual prisoner in my own home. And now, okay, so we got somebody being honest about how they're feeling. They said they feel like they're a virtual prisoner. And I know many people want to say this, but they just can't. They feel bad about it. They don't, they know they'll be judged. But yeah, this is the truth. Virtual prisoner. All right. Let's see. This says, I too am a virtual prisoner in my own home, and now at 66, I certainly not living the life I imagined my retirement would be. But my wife does not suffer from dementia or incontinence. She knows who I am. And most importantly, she knows what we mean to each other. That's good. That goes far in compensating for the losses. So this guy's Dennis, and he's out of Des Moines. And he says for 20 years, he's been the sole caregiver for his wife. So his wife must not be too out as far as like being able to like dementia. He says she doesn't have dementia, and she doesn't suffer from incontinence, which means she can get up and go to the restroom and things of that nature. But he says it has been very taxing on him, and he says that oh, she's had a stroke, so she's permanently disabled. But he says he feels like a virtual prisoner in his home because he has to take care of his wife and he has to see what's going on with her. So, I get it. I get it. Let's see. I'm going to add Deborah to the stream. Deborah, here we go. Let's see. Hey, Deborah, how are you?
Hello, how are you?
I am well. I am well. So we're having this conversation, Deborah, at home or in an old folks' home, and we're talking about what people are going through. I put my own life on hold, the pain and joy of caring for parents. Is there anything you wanted to add to the conversation about this topic?
Well, yeah. I just stopped working in 2018, and about 9 months after that, I received a call, and it was my mother's husband. Um, my father had passed in 2015, and my mother had remarried. Um, and he land on the first day of a new job, landing in Baltimore, Maryland. He had a heart attack at baggage claim.
Wow.
So
Sheesh.
I had been away from my job for about 9 months with the federal government, 26 years with the government. And I received a call uh, from the doctors at the University of Maryland. They were saying that we need to get someone up here to assist my mother
Wow.
because she had been there for 10 days. And what we didn't realize was my mother was really starting to show some serious signs of dementia. And her husband knew this, but it just started basically January of 2019 showing signs.
Wow.
And so I received that call the last of March of 2019 to come up there to assist her with him being at the University of Maryland. As it ended up, I was able to go and everything um, because I was not working. All my other siblings were working, and with her showing those signs of dementia and everything, it became really hard, and it helped me to see into my God what can happen if she gets worse, if he doesn't recover, and then she gets worse. What's going to happen to the both of them?
Right.
Um, I was there up until I want to say after the 4th of July of that year, assisting, with him and her. And I had to do things that I never wanted to do, like learn how to, be a caretaker. He had a feeding tube and all that type of stuff. By the time he was
Wow.
released and sent back home to Alabama, because they're from Alabama. But we ended up at the University of Maryland Hospital for 30 days, and then they moved him over into rehabilitation at
Wow.
the University of Maryland Rehab Center for another 30, maybe 6 weeks. And then by the time I got home and he, was able to get all the help secured that he needed to, for the physical therapist to come in and for me to start to look into getting her some help and everything, someone to come in 2 or 3 times a week. I was finally able to come back home to Illinois. but it gave me some insight into, you know, what could really happen. Because see, my mother's husband is 15 years younger than she is.
Oh, okay, okay.
You know, my mother was 79 at the time. He's 15 years younger. He
Wow.
was still, part of the workforce.
Right,
And this,
right.
this was supposed to be, he landed, it was supposed to be the first day of a new job working for the federal government, for the Department of the Army in Baltimore.
Wow.
And so, we never really worried about things because my mother's husband is so much younger than my mother until, he's been doing a great job all these years taking care of my mom. They had, they've been married now about 25 years.
Oh, wow. Cool.
But it gave me a good insight into, what could happen with, and, luckily I was able to go and to be there to be of help. And I thought about it. I was like, it's one of those things that I had actually worried about because when I worked for the, Department of Defense, I was back and forth in and out of the Middle East since 2012,
Wow.
from 2012 to 2017, the end of the year. And I worried that something would happen to my mother. And then, I would not have had a chance, to be able to spend time with her or whatever. But once this happened with her spouse, um, I really got a insight into what it what it takes and what it looks like to have to be the one to have to go off and to become the caretaker. And I had to become the caretaker. And he has his own children, but people work, and his children are younger than I am, and people are in the like in the midst of their careers and their lives and livelihoods and stuff. His children are 20 years younger than I am,
Oh,
both his
wow.
children. So um, I did feel, grateful and lucky that I was able to go off and to help.
Well, my question I asked you, Deborah Hall, um, and us looking back and forth at all these different perspectives, was there a moment in time where you felt like, even though you said you enjoyed it, you're glad that you got to spend that time, because I know many people were saying the joy of caring for the parent, they were glad that they could, step in. Was there a moment where you felt like your other siblings or anybody else should want to come help, or did you just kind of take on that whole role and just not even focus on what other people should have done?
Well, the thing about it is all of my siblings were still working
Okay.
also, and with the way that I, was had become to the point to where I was no longer employed. I guess I always say only God can see down the road. Because, like I said, what I would think about when I was working and wasn't thinking about leaving the job or anything like that, deploying in and out of the continental United States, going overseas, Middle East, doing government contracting, and still in the back of my mind, kind of hoping that nobody died or or whatever, especially with my mother because on my other well, three of my siblings, it's six of us. Three of them are in Alabama,
Right.
you know, and
Uh-huh.
then the other three, we had Georgia, Colorado, and Illinois. And they were always able to be around my mother,
Gotcha.
but I left home and joined the military. Left home, went to college, left college, joined the military, got out of the military, got married, traveled for 20 years with my spouse, in and out overseas, started working for DOD, um, you know, always lived up here in this area, Southern Illinois. And then later on in my career, started going back and forth into the Middle East to do government contracting, working with the soldiers. So, I never had the opportunity
To
have
be
those
with her.
times when I could just really spend a lot of time with my mother.
Gotcha.
And when that happened, in 2019, my mother was 79. She's 82 now.
Cool. Awesome.
So
Awesome. She's still trucking. So yeah, so your whole perspective was more so that you were ready to spend that time with her, and like you said, how God had moved the things around. It was a point where it was just right for you to step in and do that. So it didn't bother you to do that because the time was right, the way it was set up for you to go be there for your parent.
of course, the only thing was me being having to still have concern for my household here in Illinois, and with I guess it's good that I had gotten used to coming and going, in and out of my household for months and days at a time,
Gotcha.
because it got my husband and my son, who were still here, used to me being away. So I look at it as, well, at least they can manage when I'm not around, But
Right.
then, you know, my mother started showing signs of dementia, so there was kind of a pull and a tug with me having to be careful not to. She wasn't full blown into dementia, but she started showing signs like messing up bills and mailing bills back to herself or things like that. She was still into going paying bills, and but by us being in Baltimore, I had to get her used to online bill payments and things like that. And of course, money is always for a lot of us, money is always the issue. Just being able to afford. We lived in and out of a hotel for 30 days, airport hotel, and then we were able to get inside of this place near the University of Maryland for those families who are there while their loved one is getting the rehabilitation. There's a home there, nice house. It's called the German House or something like that. I forgot the official name before that, but it was a real nice setup, like an Airbnb type for the families. And of course, it was pretty expensive. It was pretty nice. It was pretty expensive, and their insurance. Fortunately, my mother's husband was covered by a good, insurance, because he was still working a job and everything. And so I feel like my mom was, and her husband, they were pretty lucky in that when this happened, it happened. He was able to recover, and he eventually did go back to work, but he has since retired. You know, once he got better, he was out for about a year, but the money is the issue, and like I said, just me being um, worried about not getting that time with my mother when I was working, and always hoping that nothing happened before I would, be able to spend some time with her. And with just the way this happened, I was able to spend that time with her and with him.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I think the more so the important part of this time is that fact that, like I said, even with me, talking to my grandparent, talking to her and listening to her, and if she needs something, I think some things, I don't know. It's just like it just makes it easier when you have a mindset to know like you want to be there for that person, and sometimes it can be harder if it's like the load is so heavy that nobody is there to help you. And so I think that's super awesome that you got to spend time with your mother. Your mother is still moving strong and doing well now. You said this happened in her 70s, 79. Now she's
She was
80.
79. She was 79 in 2019. Yes.
That's awesome. And even with this C19 time, the whole aspect of, making sure people stay safe and healthy, I think it's super, super important that, we shout out the people that are working in the background, even if they're not related to us and they're not our family. I think it's important because I don't think people realize the toll that's being taken on
Well,
them.
yeah,
And
the
this,
year of C-19 brought on its own set of problems with my older sister being diagnosed with breast cancer. And there I had to go running back again the end of January 2020, back to Alabama, this time for my sister who had to have a double mastectomy.
good
And
grief.
I ended up, um, wh- while I was in 2019, while I was there, I got in Baltimore. I received a call from the U.S. Census Bureau, Department of Commerce, to go work for them. And I kept putting it off and kept putting it off until I eventually I had to do all my paperwork for the job online, and I had to get all of my background check and fingerprinting and all of that from Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama, when I got back. But I knew I was going to ask to actually work in Illinois. So I waited until I got in the system and got everything done. And then I asked for a transfer back up to Southern Illinois, where my home is. And I started work in August for the 2020 census. I started working in August uh, in Illinois for the getting ready for the 2020 census, so that when January of 2020 rolled around and C-19 was getting ready to happen, unbeknownst to me, I was not going to be able to start up again with the census in 2020 because of C-19, and I was able to put in for the unemployment from working from August to the end of 2019, and I was able to get it. And that afforded me the opportunity to be able to help my sister who was down with cancer throughout
And
2020.
yeah, and it seemed like it all kind of worked for you. It
Yeah,
worked for you to for it to all lay out the way it's supposed to. Aisha, I think you accidentally blocked on hid you though. Aisha Smith. So yeah, I think there was like a bot before your name. So you're unhidden and you're not blocked from anything. Shout out to Aisha. I'm looking on my phone and it looks like it was. You were hidden for some reason, but you're unhidden now. But yeah, I mean, it's so many things too, Deborah. I know I'm looking here at the article and it's talking about the anguish and anxiety and even going back to what Mickey said, and I think that's prevalent. She was saying how, she says you're not going to get the accolades and your siblings may catch an attitude when you ask them for help. It's like, dang, she's not just my mom. Sorry for no, you're not. This is no Mickey. This ain't you venting. And it's to me, it's just odd to me how somebody could take care of you your whole life, but you feel like because you have the opportunity to move on with your family, and it just kind of behooves me how a lot of people feel like it is. Well, how do I word it? A lot of people feel like it is incumbent to, and it's taking time out of their life to take care of that family member. And it's just so interesting to me. And I get it because it's just easier to walk away from it and not have to deal with it. So, you make up excuses. But, like I said, it's just very interesting to me. I know here's another story. This guy, his name is John. And he says, my father had a stroke and I took care of him for the next 5 years around the clock. The strange combination of tasks mixed with the constant uncertainty creates a level of anxiety that is impossible to describe. Says, I have to applaud anyone who does this as a career. And that's what I was saying. I mean, even in the school system, I think they're like the hidden angels that just deal with so much. The people that have to take care of the students that are they're incoherent and they cannot like function for their age. They cannot function. They function as like infants, and all the things they have to deal with. They have to deal with changing their clothes and take them to the bathroom, and nobody really knows all that, except that parent that takes care of that child too. He says when you're related to the person involved, it just sort of happens, and you never know for how long. And you do tell yourself just one more day, one more week, one more month. So I mean, this guy is saying the same thing, the same story, is being said with people, and I just find it so interesting as far as what people are going through. My question to you, Deborah, is at any point in time did any siblings feel like maybe we should put mom in a place where people could take care of her, even if it was a short time? Did any sibling mention that to you at all?
Well, here's the thing. We were so hopeful for recovery for my mother's husband.
Okay.
Um, and so the dementia was early onset, in 2019. It has since progressed now. But I do
Gotcha.
remember early on, my mother used to make statements like, he could just put me in a nursing home because she's so much older than him. She would make statements like, he could just put me in a nursing home. Don't embarrass me and be, after I get old and be out cheating on me and stuff. He could just put me in a
Right.
nursing home. She would say, say too much, but she didn't really mean it. I don't think she really would want to go to a nursing home, even right now at this point. My mother doesn't want to go to a nursing home. And as far as with the other siblings, with what you were talking about uh, earlier on, I have two sisters. My oldest sister, my youngest sister, but then my sibling that's a male, my brother, that's not my mother's son. That's my father's son. So I never, we didn't grow up in the same house with him. He grew up in the house with his mother. So the five of us is four girls and one boy, and those are the two girls, the oldest daughter and the youngest daughter. And like I said, my oldest sister was the one that had gotten the breast cancer in 2020. So I would have wanted my siblings to do more for my mother, but they've all been down there around each other all of these years, and they're just all kind of sick of each other, to tell you the truth. And you know, it's not the same as the type of relationship that I have with my mom, because I was always all of
You were
these years
gone.
away from her.
Right.
So I always had to, uh, my time was always limited when going on vacations or going around or being on leave, never longer than a week or whatever.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha. Your dynamic with your mother was different. So you didn't mind longing to be there with her and taking care of her because you had moved forward in life, and you lived your life away from family. Unlike many people, they stay in the same place with their
mhm,
family. So yeah, I can understand that dynamic to what you're saying. It makes a lot of sense because I know even with us when my mother married my father, I mean from that day on, like we traveled, and because my father was in the military, so
mhm,
we were always gone. So we stayed away from her family for a long time because we were military, so we traveled overseas and everywhere. Hey, Luke Hazley says, I think we take our health for granted. We do. We definitely do. I know it, Luke Hazley. I am currently caring for my husband after heart surgery, and it's not an easy thing. And he is still strong, capable, and etc. But long-term disability insurance is a must. Yes, we were talking, I think Adrian was talking about that earlier. Yeah, and even if it is a loved one, a spouse, or even a child that you're super close to, it's still tasking, and it's still something to where mentally, especially, depending on the level of what that loved one can or can't do, it's still something that a lot of times people don't speak of, and or do not speak on the realities of how taxing it can be on someone, especially if they're the only ones out of many siblings that have to do it. Now, Deborah's situation is different because even if the siblings had said, we don't want to or whatever, she already, in her heart, and she spoke on how, God has set that up for her, that it was just a situation where she could step into it anyways because she wasn't working. But I concur with you, Lucas. Yes, it is our health. People just take it for granted until they're in a situation where they have to care for a loved one, or they're the ones that have to get cared for. Car says always have a good demeanor for them youngsters, miracle whippersnappers. Be a good demeanor than them. They'll listen to your wishes. I mean, as far as that, it's funny because people always says, I have a child that I would trust, and then I have the other child that I just don't trust. Not that you don't trust him, but that one child that is actually going to take care of you. So cars, you're always cracking jokes. Here's another one that I thought was super interesting perspective. This guy's named James, and he's out of Washington. He says, I am a caregiver to my 85-year-old mother. Lucky for me, she just come to a point that she needs someone there to cook, clean, and mow the yard. Still, it's hard work. You watch the person you're caring for slowly weaken and become frail. That alone is excruciating. And this is the mental toll that I was talking about, guys, when people are taking care of other loved ones. It's not even really the physical labor of love where you're doing the things around the house and cleaning and things. It's that whole idea of the concept of who you knew, and how they showed you they loved you and they cared by, that whole conversation back and the whole engagement of the relationship. He says, still it's hard work. You watch the person you're caring for slowly weaken and become frail. That alone is excruciating to watch. Someone you love very much grow old and pass. Years ago when I was 17, my aunt was passing or was deteriorating of lung cancer. On her last day, I went to the hospital with a pack of cigarettes and 2 bottles of beer. My aunt never was a big drinker, but she liked a cold beer and her smokes. I went in, sat down, and opened her a beer, opened a pack of smokes, lit her one, and me. I was a smoker then in the late 70s. Who wasn't? That's this guy talking. He says, we sat there talking about life and loss over our cigarettes and beer. I told her how much I loved her and how I would always remember her and how much passing sucked. She said, you will surely grow old and pass, but not for a long time. And he says she passed with me holding her hand. And I think, like I said, that time that we have with people, that time that we have caring for them, I think it's super important. I think it's super, super important. As far as that, Deborah, is there anything that you wanted to say or add to people as far as those that have to take care of a loved one, or maybe something that people that us that have not taken care of somebody that is sickly, or that has been mentally incapacitated where they can't take care of themselves? Is there something else we might want to know or we need to understand about people that take care of loved ones?
Well, like I said, I really wanted to come up just to to make these comments regarding how in life how I had all of those concerns. Like I said, I keep reiterating that because I just think that was just you know like I said, God knows the future. He's the only one that
Mm-hmm.
can see down the road, and all of that time that I was so worried, about whether or not I was going to be able to have the time with my
Mm-hmm.
mother.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and now I have it. I'm still unemployed because I kind of want to do something on, YouTube. I've been looking into that,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm
Uh-huh.
I'm available. I'm free to be able to, to go south as needed
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reasons. And I was also, like I said, I was available for my sister, for my older
Mm-hmm.
sister. She was really just released in March of 2020. 2021 of her, we found out in 2020, March of 2021, she's fine now, and she's, on her own, and she's not able to, she's disabled. She's considered disabled because of some other things, not just being free of the cancer, but some other things. So um, now it's just a matter of realizing, I guess, that I think I just think it's a blessing. I remember, like I said, when my mother was able to take care of her mother, and and then so I wanted to be able to, help with my mother, and I'm hoping that my siblings will want to do more as they get a opportunity or a chance, but the majority of them all have their careers, right in the middle of still working. So,
Do you think that makes a difference, so Deborah? If they are working, do you think that's an excuse for a family member not to help?
oh, that was the biggest factor that played into me going to assist my mother, was the fact that I was no longer employed. You see what I'm saying? If I had been employed, it's really hard to leave your career, especially leaving your career. I left my career, but it wasn't, to go assist. I left my career before I needed to go assist them. But I left my career 18 months before I was even able to even draw my first retirement pension. Something came up, and I left. And I wasn't sure of if I was going to try to become re-employed with the government at the time, or just, you know, uh, I was just going through some stuff. And so, like I said, it was about 9 months before I ended up having to go to assist my mother and her husband. And then after that, I did become reemployed with the Department of Commerce, but it was a short. Those employment terms are very short term.
Uh huh.
Working with that census, and then I didn't get to do that really. Not, I mean, I worked the pre-work, they call it, um, but I didn't get to. Nobody got to really work that 2020 census. I think some people in some places worked for about maybe 3 weeks before the operations got shut down because of 219. So, but the biggest thing is people feel that they can't leave their employment because they gotta be able to take care of their family.
Yeah. And I know it's so interesting, like I said, looking back on these different stories, Deborah. We're going to get into the call to action side of this because, like I said, I mean, the different perspectives. We have an actual live person that came up to talk about their what they've gone through. We had many people in the chat. Luke Hazley talked about taking care of her husband that had a heart issue. Mickey Red talks about taking care of a love member. We had Adrian talk about taking care of a family member. There's so many dynamics and it's so many levels to this. I mean, listening to all these different perspectives from the different people from this New York Times article. I really believe that the conversation here, guys, is something that was important to start. I feel like just this whole topic is important because this is part of life. Parents are going to age. We're going to have family members that get sick. We're going to have family members that need care. And the conversation at hand is, and the biggest issue that I found, even listening to people in the chat, was the aspect of the monetary part of it. I know we just had Deborah Hall here speaking on, it was, for me, it was easy to to sacrifice myself to help a parent because I was the one that wasn't working. All my siblings were working. I know a lot of people in this article, this New York Times article, that was the biggest wall or blocking, because many of them could not go back into the workforce, because from what I'm reading, the age at the time that they were helping the family members, it spanned from almost 10 to many of them 25, 30 years, and they were not realizing they were going to be out of the workforce that long. And with that being said, it took a toll on their life with their family and moving forward as far as bills and things of that nature. So as far as this topic, I put my own life on hold, the pain and joy of caring for parents. Am I going to have my parent or sibling or loved one in the old folks home? Or are they going to be at home, which is the title that I led this conversation with, as far as what do we do and say? How do we handle this whole dynamic? Is it wrong for you to put your parent in the type of facility to get taken care of? Is it wrong for all the siblings or all the people that can be caregivers to take part, or should just the one that can do it the easiest and the most viable, should they be able to carry the burden? I think it's just so interesting, and that's why I'm glad we did this topic. Shout out to my husband. He was one of the main people that was saying, babe, you should do this. It's it needs to be talked about, because it's an issue a lot of people go through. Let's see. K Love says, I'm concerned about my mom aging. I am her only child, and not sure how caring for her is going to work. At least with a sibling, we could coordinate her care. And K Love, to be honest with you, you sound the same ideal and worry that one of the neighbors has. It's the same thing. They have no siblings. None of their parents relatives live around, so by default she just has to take care of them. And it's a big strain and stress on her because she gets no break and no relief. And I believe her mother has dementia, so she's there by herself with no help. And it's a real thing. And once again, K Love just came in saying the same thing. I'm very concerned because my mother is aging, and I'm wondering how I'm going to deal with this. And I'm hoping, K Love, if you didn't get to check the whole stream, just go ahead and replay that. Replay the stream, because in this article I discuss how many different facets of people, young, old, and in between, dealt with this issue of caring for family members, dealt with this issue with how to deal with it, and the truth of that it's taxing. Many people were saying that it was a strain on them, and it was a mentally tasking and toiling to them. And I think the more that we can talk about this, the more that we can be honest with this, the more we can talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, the joy, and the pain of it. I think it would make it such more reality, because many people are going to have to deal with this, even if they want to or not. And I think that conversation should be had, just so there is a piece that goes into it. And even if you are thrown into it, you can understand that you can go back to this, video and get some peace in just listening to other people. Once again, we had Deborah. She came up and gave her situation, speaking on what this looks like. We had many people in the chat that talked about, how they had to deal with it, the burden it was on them mentally and physically. And we have people that are coming into parenting and having their children, and how they want to set up their life so their children don't have to worry about these things. Adrian says, it's not working for the elderly or disabled to be placed in a professional institutionalized setting. Okay. Danny says, Kevin Samuels talks a lot about this topic, a lot of why he says we are meant to be paired in good marriages. Yeah, Danny, it's imperative. It's really, really imperative, because if you, and the key word is good marriages, because you can be with somebody and be marriageable, and you could be with somebody that literally is not concerned about you getting older, and they are not do not care to take care of you. Actually, that's probably why they have their life insurance set up, because they're ready for you to go. And yeah, Caleb, I hope it blesses you listening to this again and gives you some sort of peace, because I think it's just a true reality that many people have to deal with, but it's not talked about canningly. And people just gotta suffer in silence, and they go through it, and it's just because they have to. And I feel like, especially those type of jobs and those type of situations that people don't give accolades to, I like to always just give you a shout out, even if it's just in this space, to know that you're appreciated, and what you're doing is something that is necessary and notable, and you will get that shout out here if you don't get it anywhere else, because it's a type of job that nobody ever gets accolades for. We don't get accolades for taking care of our family members and loved ones, but it is toiling for many people, and that's why I feel like this conversation was definitely necessary. Cars says, our family finally made the ultimate decision for our mom. It was a wise move for her, and she agreed, not at first. Okay. So I'm assuming Cars, did you guys put her in a facility, or she's getting assisted living care? Sophia says, hello, Finesse family. Very serious topic. Yes, it is, Sophia. I will replay, just because you have siblings do not mean that they will help. Yeah, Sophia, and Mickey Red Creates was basically solidifying that statement you said, because she was saying how out of all her siblings, she's the one taking care of that loved one, and she doesn't understand if that we all come from this loved one, why am I the main one? And I think that is a question that needs to be had. I think it's important to ask those questions, because I don't understand why siblings do what they do sometimes. I just don't get it. She says, my siblings will not help, so my father was in a home too. I had no better option. Yeah, and it comes down to, sometimes you just have to make the best choice for your family. This is not a judgment call, and this is why I did this New York Times article, because there's so many perspectives and views of this from different people that did it different ways, and I wanted it to be that way, so those of you that did make these type of choices, you could have some type of peace and hear somebody that sounded like you, or did it the way you did it, and you don't feel like you're the only one and it was a bad choice or you shouldn't have did that. Because guess what, guys, we have to do what works for our families. Just that's what we have to do. Adrian says, as the baby boomer population ages, this will continue to be an important discussion to have. Yeah, Adrian, and that's why I it's so imperative, because that population is growing. It is growing more so, number one. And number two, Adrian, all with the different things that are going on as far as mental health, a lot of people are at a younger age being having to get health care and home care from others because of the mental things that are going on with people at a young age. So yeah, you're right. Caleb says, my mom was married all my life. She was a caregiver for my stepdad, but unfortunately women outlive men. Yeah, they do in most instances. Danny says, who wants to put that burden on their children? This makes me want to hustle harder. And I mean, like I said, I'm so glad that this conversation is making you guys actually think in the future for your children. It's making many of you that are going through this speak up and talk about what you're going through. I'm so glad that you feel safe here to admit those things that you guys are going through, that everybody that has had this space to talk in the chat or on the stream, that you guys felt comfortable enough to let others know, because you guys are going to help a lot of people. Just you talking and saying what you guys are going through. Like I said, I don't think you guys realize in the future, people, when they listen to this, how it's going to affect them. And I really appreciate you guys being open and honest. I definitely appreciate that, you guys. And yeah, shout out to you, Danny. I'm glad that you're listening to this and taking this more serious. He says, it makes me want to hustle harder for my child, because I don't want them to have a burden. Luke Casley says, my sisters and I have discussed the responsibility of caring for our parents, and it becomes a continuous topic because nobody wants to think about our parents being gone and the responsibilities. Yeah, and nobody wants to think about the parent even being sick, because it's like, and you don't want to think about them not being themselves. The lively, living, coherent parent, not the dementia parent or the parent that can't move or can't talk. That's a true statement, Lucchese. You're right. Let's see. Cars says medical old facility. Adrian saying professional fiduciaries get paid handsomely for those services, and they have a staff of people to assist. And I know, Adrian, I don't remember if I went over that one. I remember reading it. Let me see what it was. This was the reason why people said that they did not want their parent to be in that facility, in a facility. Let me see where that one was at. I believe it was towards the end of what I was reading. The high cost of home aids. Yes.
Um, while I was with my mom and her
Mm-hmm.
husband,
Mm-hmm.
I went to look into that, to
Mm-hmm.
be able to receive something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they were they had all kinds of rules in Alabama for that. Like
Mm.
when I went there, I was in home with them. So
Okay.
I would not have been able to receive any type of compensation because I was in home with them. I would have They said I would have needed to have been living at a different residence.
Oh, so okay. So you're saying when you coming in to the house, that you could use that as far as like writing it off or getting paid because you are leaving your home or facility coming to aid, like
Well, no,
a health aid would.
what I'm saying is I didn't have any way of receiving any type of compensation other
Mm-hmm.
than what my mother and her husband gave me,
Mm.
and that was in the
Okay.
very end when I left. And
Wow. Mm-hmm.
it had been very expensive from the start with the way things
Mm-hmm.
happened. Anyway, a lot of money out of pocket for my mother and her husband, so
Right.
they weren't really able to really compensate me
Wow.
for coming. But as far as the state of Alabama,
Uh
when I
huh.
went to look into it regarding, you were speaking in the beginning about you were getting ready to look it up on ways for people to be, I guess, compensated for taking care of family members.
Yeah, I had read a report over that. They
Yeah,
talked
one of
about.
the things they told me was because I was the whole time I was down there, I was in home, in the house with them, living there, and that I would have needed to not to be that be my residence for me to be able to get some type of
Yeah, that
compensation.
makes sense. Yeah, that's what I had. That's what I had. That's what I previously just said. It would make sense for them to pay you if you were coming from your home to that person's house because that's what a healthcare provider would do. They would come in there and
Right,
facilitate.
but
So
not
that's
with
why
me.
they would get paid for it. But I don't. Yeah, I still think you should get paid for that. I
That was
still
the
think,
catch-22 that I didn't know
isn't
anything
it?
about.
Yeah, that's a super
I
catch
did not
22.
look into it, but it was all after the fact
and
because
and I
we were
believe too.
walking.
And I believe too, Deborah, I think states are different too. I think some states would allow that because just that toll and that task that it puts on the nursing homes and those facilities because they only can hold so many people. It seemed like that would be a heavy burden. And I'm not trying to scare anybody, guys, but I do want to do this. I do definitely want to say this one, the high cost of home aids. This was why somebody was saying the opposite of why they would want to put them in a nursing home or facility, because this is true. I mean, this is something that can and does happen. So I definitely want to speak all sides. The high cost of home aids. Somebody says I went through Craig's list, figuring without an agency taking a percentage, the caregiver and I would come out ahead. So this is a person. Her name's Jackie in Los Angeles. She felt like if she took care of her parent, she would be way ahead. So she says this involved me vetting each caregiver using online tools. I was lucky enough to find one caregiver for weekdays. But for the weekends, I must have gone through over 30 caregivers, each with a unique set of problems. I find that one caregiver, for instance, had been smoking crack during her shift. A house cleaner found her pipe. Another was leaving my mom alone for hours at a time. A neighbor noticed this. And yet another one had unchecked temper and punched the weekday caregiver in the mouth, knocking some teeth out. She says, my mother wanted to age in a place, so I helped her to do this, but it was a horrific experience. So once again, guys, like I said, I mean, there's so many elements in ways and venues to look at this. I wanted to do the good, the bad, and all pieces of this, so you guys can make that choice the way you feel like it's necessary. But the conversation at hand is necessary, I felt. And I definitely want to have this conversation. Cars says, here in Canada, we have superb facilities in this city for the elderly. That's awesome, Cars. Because I think for the most part, most facilities do well. But people know that the elderly they don't speak and they don't talk, just like children. So a lot of times people will get over on them, or people will create these facilities because they know the government has and different facilities have that money to give for these homes and stuff. Let's see. Matt Rick says, I've done way too much for the crumb snatchers to feel bad because they have to care for me when I need it. Let's see. Caleb says, oh wow. Let's She says there are home care companies that will assist you, and here in Georgia, Medicaid will pay. Okay, and I thought most of them did take Medicaid, because I thought at a certain age, or if they're incapacitated a certain way, Medicaid or Medicare will take care of them. Adrian says the baby boomer population is not growing, but giving the sheer number of them compared to the generation after them, there's a huge burden placed on these subsequent generations. Hey, Laura C. Laura C says they have services like this in New York that pay families or friends that don't live, and that's the key thing, don't live in the home, to take care of their loved ones. Great topic. Thank you, Laura C. I appreciate that. Sophia says, Danny, I know my daughters want their own life, and I told them to put me in a home. I know my son to be won't leave me, but I will insist. His joy will keep me happy. I refuse to worry them. And shout out to Sophia, guys. She's I don't know if Sophia is adoption finalized already. I know she's in the process of adopting a teenage boy. So shout out to Sophia for that, and I hope everything's going well with that, Sophia. Adrian says you have to understand the administration in order to get the caregiving benefits compensation. Laura has a crying faces. Sophia says, oh wow, that's horrible. That's a horrible story. Yeah, but it's, there's a lot of these stories, guys, going on. People just don't have the floor to talk about it. It's just kind of in the background. And like I said, I wanted to have this whole conversation, not just talk about we should do it, we shouldn't do it, how to do it. I want us to see all aspects of this conversation. Adrian says the administration and regulations can be a nightmare to deal with in order to get the benefits out. Yeah, I'm pretty sure of it, Adrian. Matt Rick says too many reports of care workers abusing the elderly for me. Let's see. Mickey says the live-in home rule is whack. Yeah, it is. I think it's just a way to hold people back. I don't think that it should have been that way, just because, like I said, you are facilitating any way you look at it. And I think it's important. All right, guys. So once again, we're going to end on that note. It sounds like my little one is calling for me. So once again, guys, if you didn't catch the whole thing, go ahead and replay this. This was a lot of good information. I appreciate everybody in here that was talking and giving their advice and giving all the information that they were giving on this topic. It's so important, guys. Once again, we're talking about at home or putting them in an old folks home. I put my own life on hold, the pain and joy of caring for parents. We talked the good, the bad, and the ugly on this topic. Everybody's saying congratulations to Sophia for that. Sophia says, Matt Ricks, these reports are straight up facts. I made sure I saw my dad every other day and still saw way too much. And yeah, I mean, and it's not anything hidden, guys. If you look, like, these reports, to me, I can see why people would do it, because they know elderly people are not going to talk, or they will say, things scary to the elderly people, saying, like, if you say something, I'm going to hurt you and all that. And this elderly abuse is so bad, even relatives do it to them in their home. So, I mean, it's not anything that's hidden. Pure Pondering says, just got here, was actually talking about this morning with a wonderful, sweet 80-year-old widow whose children have also passed. She's still on her own. Gave her info on local places where elders gather together. Miss B Finesse not finalized yet. He is ready though. I'm so happy for you though, Sophia. I'm so excited for you. I'm so glad. And I told you when you told us, it takes a special person to take in a teenager, because many do not want to take in the teenagers. They want younger kids, babies, infants, and toddlers. And you're just such a blessing to take this teenager in, and I just wish you the best and blessings with him. And Mill says, we have to put my mother in an assisted living apartment. She cannot live by herself. See, everybody's coming out talking about it. This is in my Finesse family. It looks like this is 1 in 3. 1 in 3, you guys are either going through this, have been through it, or you're in the process of it. So this topic is important. I'm so glad, my husband brought it up to talk about, because you guys are actually in the thick of this. Adrian says, okay, good afternoon, all. Car says, thank you, Mrs. B. Wonderful chat. Pure Pondering says, we've had to help families find places where parents into skilled care, and it's a challenge. Let's see. Laura says there needs to be an extreme punishment for those who abuse kids and elderly. I know, and it just goes under the radar, Laura, and it's just sickening. And trust me, they're gonna get it back. They're going to get back that and more. It just might not be this instant, but they're going to get it back. My parents are not afraid to tell them off and call us to complain. Great. I'm so glad, in Mills. I am super, super glad. So with that being said, guys, we're going to end it on that note, because I definitely want this to be something that people can go back and look at and just get a lot of information from, get a lot of pertinent information and support. Thank you guys so much, Finesse family, for being honest and open here in the chat, letting people know they're not alone, giving all your different stories of the people you guys are taking care of, your loved ones. I thank you guys so much, as always. Once again, guys, if you hadn't hit that like button, make sure you guys hit that. Always do that when you come in. That shows the algorithm and people that are looking and in YouTube that the conversation, the topic is important, and it's imperative, and you're learning something. So once again, guys, this is Mrs. B Finesse here of MillennialFinesseMindset.com, and we're the Finesse family here, where I am faithfully innovating, inspiring you guys. I'm naturally effective, which means I'm being myself, not anybody else, and I seek success every day, and that's what I want you guys to do. You guys have a blessed day, and I'll talk to you guys later. Adios.